Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. It is still pretty dark here, but there's absolutely no way that this 6 Things We Learnt video was not going to come out immediately after the game. Tottenham Hotspur 0, Chelsea 1. It is always the game, every single season, where we just want to get 3 points. It doesn't matter how it's done. It doesn't matter if it's boring, if it's ugly. Beating Spurs away is one of the best feelings in the world, and we have done it again, and it is a brilliant start to life as Chelsea manager for Thomas Tuchel. You know, when he came in, he had that game against Wolves within 24 hours. People were looking at it thinking, is he going to be able to, turn this around quickly? Is he going to be able to field a side with confidence that are going to be able to go out there and put in a performance for him after a run of dreadful results under Frank Lampard? But now, having beaten Spurs away, and we look good tonight, It wasn't the most entertaining game of football. I've already said this. It doesn't matter how you win at Spurs away. I mean, I'm the other side of the world right now in Southeast Asia, but if you're a Chelsea fan, we're pretty sure that we're happy with this one. If you did enjoy the victory, be sure to hit the like button on today's video. Subscribe to GBFC if you're new around here and haven't already done so. And we'll jump into box number 1, or as you guys like it when I say, we move into box number 1, and it is a blue box for the manager. I've given a blue box to Thomas Tuchel because I thought, after all of the results that we've had, 3 clean sheets in a row, again, rarely even looking like we were going to concede a goal today. We were so good in terms of the way that we set up, the shape, the formation, everything was perfect from Chelsea. And not only did we get the result, but I think what it shows for me is that all of these players that weren't quite firing in the last few games under Lampard, I hate to always bring it back in comparison, but what we've seen in Tuchel's first 3 games in charge, with the first week of him being Chelsea manager, is he has rejuvenated so many players, and just the overall energy that Chelsea have when we're on the field now, even when we're not attacking and creating chances, or we do look a little bit pedestrian and mundane in the build-up, I wouldn't say that it's not always boring. Sometimes the build-up is a little bit boring, but we look so much more clinical now with how we actually exert ourselves on the pitch, which I think is all down to the in-game management of Thomas Tuchel. I think the substitution timings have been brilliant. I think the way that he seems to be galvanising the whole dressing room up again, despite whatever we thought about individuals or certain players who we didn't think were going to play very much for Chelsea again. I eat a slice of humble pie. The likes of Marcus Alonso, Tony Rudiger, Jorginho. These are players that I didn't think had a future at Chelsea playing the way that we were playing, particularly under the latter stages under Lampard. But boy, does it feel good to be wrong. Does it feel good to have so many senior players back in the side again, actually delivering for us. And the fact that in only 3 games, we've got 7 points, including a win against our biggest rival, Spurs. Thomas Tuchel is doing an absolutely incredible job. And I think he absolutely deserves the blue box today, setting us up again against Jose Mourinho. Our former manager. Yes, it isn't the first time that we've won away at Spurs now. We're used to this, They don't win things. They got a Carabao Cup final. A part of me, even though this sounds absolutely ludicrous, I don't want Spurs to win a trophy, but part of me thinks it would be good if they did, because then Mourinho will stay, Spurs will be absolutely nothing again, and Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea can just steamroll through that club from Northwest London. Northwest London, it's not Northwest London, it's Northeast London, but, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Irrelevance equals miscommunication in the brain sometimes. We move away from slating Spurs for a second into box number 2, and it is a green box for Jorginho, the penalty taker, the goal scorer. When I saw that Jorginho was taking the penalty, I was worried. I looked at it and I thought, if he does this little hop, skip and jump again, and then he misses again, you guys know what I was going to say, but it's irrelevant because he didn't miss. Jorginho steps up, it's a beautiful penalty, puts enough power on it, plenty of precision, into the bottom left corner. Hugo Lloris goes the right way, but Jorginho gets more than enough on it. Wins the game for Chelsea, which in any London derby, regardless of whether it's against Spurs or not, if you win the London derby for the boys in blue, you get yourself a green box on the GBFC 6 Things We Learnt video. But that being said, I thought overall Jorginho's play was absolutely excellent. There were a couple of times in the second half where Spurs were actually pressing a lot higher up the pitch. They were putting Chelsea under a lot more pressure when we had the ball from the goalkeeper. There were times where either Christensen or Mendy would play it out to Jorginho in the middle of the park. And instead of taking a touch and then giving it back to one of the defenders, allowing the Spurs players to progress forward, Jorginho would just put his body between two Spurs players and the ball, twist and turn, and then we begin the transition again. Chelsea can go into a fluid attack, and it takes two Tottenham players out the game. I thought we saw one of the most mature Jorginho performances with effect. You know, I don't not think that Jorginho has a very mature footballing mind. I've never doubted that for a second. But what we saw today was good decisions that were effective in the transition for Chelsea, which I think is the key thing that Thomas Tuchel wants to get out of Jorginho when he puts him in this side. You know, that there's a lot of players that we would probably like to see start, but at the moment they don't deserve to, such as Kai Havertz, you know, these young, exciting players we spent a lot of money on. But the fact of the matter is, you know, when you've got these midfield maestros who have that experience, who have the knowledge of how to take players out of the game the way that Jorginho did today, he absolutely has to be starting. And I thought he was brilliant today at times, and he gets the green box for the first player. We move into box number 3, and I'm going to get this one over and done with now because I don't want to spend too much time talking about negatives when it comes to a London derby win, but it is a yellow box for being clinical. You know, there were times in that second half where Spurs were really growing into the game. They were trying to get forward a lot more successfully. Well, I say successfully, Mendy didn't have to make too many saves, but I wish we were more clinical. You know, in that first half, there were so many times, and it was frustrating, where we got the ball into the final third, and then I don't know what it was, but it looked as though, particularly Reece James, was crossing the ball in, even though there was nobody in the box. Timo Werner put in so many good crosses today as well. And I think if this Chelsea team are going to work on something moving forward, it's, you know, we don't necessarily always have to just cross the ball now. We can see that under Thomas Tuchel. We don't just have to cross the ball. We're getting a lot better at creating chances through the middle as well. But I feel as though we just got to be more smart with our deliveries. You know, it wouldn't matter if we just spent a bit more time building up the play if we actually looked up and into the box and saw that there wasn't actually anybody stood in the box waiting for the cross. I feel there's too many times where we get into good positions where we just cross it because that is what we seem to be programmed to do this season, but there's actually nobody there. So just be patient, take a bit of time, wait for someone to get into the box, then create the opportunity again. Just be a bit more patient. And I think if we were a little bit more clinical, you know, I was talking to a couple of Spurs fans, friends of mine on WhatsApp at half-time, and they were even saying that, you know, the game could have been 3-4, 5-0. And they're not wrong. You know, we got into so many good positions, created so many good chances, but just weren't clinical enough in the final third. But that being said, it's still a victory. Don't want to spend any more time talking about yellows. We move into box number 4. And even though I said that Reece James, a couple of crosses weren't so great, Hudson-Odoi got in some very good positions, box number 4 is the fact that we managed to see both Reece James and Callum Hudson-Odoi in the same side together. I was wondering how Thomas Tuchel was going to do it. And then, you know, he drops Christian Pulisic, who comes off the bench and adds a little injection of pace to make Chelsea look a bit more dangerous again in that second half. Overall, it comes back to box number 1. I think it's genius from Thomas Tuchel. You know, we've seen Chelsea struggle against the Big Six and teams above us this season. We get that victory now, away from home, at the new White Hart Lane. It's another 3 points. We beat Mourinho away from home twice in a row. Agent Mourinho still at Spurs. But the fact he manages to get both Reece James and Callum Hudson-Odoi in that side in only match number 3, where we've seen him completely change the formation, completely change the shape of everything. It's just brilliant. You know, box number 5 is in fact the shape. I thought the overall shape of the Chelsea team today, I thought Kovacic was brilliant again in the middle. Mason Mount worked incredibly hard. We had the natural width of both Marcus Alonso and Reece James. We didn't see Alonso drifting into the middle. He didn't get caught out of position that many times. He was very good on that left-hand side. Everybody today for Chelsea knew their role. Everybody knew their job. And when the shape of the team can come out like this against the Spurs side, who, you know, as bad as it is, considering Spurs, that they're known for playing exciting football, you know, they want to get their fans on side at home, which obviously there was no fans in the stadium today. Blessing for Mourinho, because they didn't try and play. But Chelsea were patient. Chelsea were everything we did was very kind of congruent, you know. I don't know if that's the right word, but structure by structure, step by step, the shape of the team was never out of position. We never looked lost, and we managed the game incredibly well. Box number 6 is another green box again. It has to be for a win like this. The grit and determination of those Chelsea players tonight to fight until the very end, you know. Someone's going past on their bike. Spurs, they started to come for us towards the end of the game. It wasn't brilliant from Spurs at any points today, you know. I didn't ever really feel as though they were going to score. But as a Chelsea fan, watching us dig deep in those dying moments of the game for yet another huge victory, we go ahead of Spurs in the table. We're up to 6th now, 3 points ahead of them. It's a massive win, this, for Chelsea. It doesn't matter what the result is, doesn't matter how bad my sore throat is, what time of the day it is. The sun is coming up. I've taken a little trip to sit outside this little supermarket shop. It's not a supermarket, it's just a bloody door. There's nothing inside, can't buy anything if I wanted to. But seeing that grit and determination is setting my day up for an absolutely perfect day today. Hit the like button if you're happy with the 3 points for Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel's Blues. We are moving. We're storming on now. It is a huge result for Chelsea. We dug deep. We get another London derby victory away from home against Tottenham. That feels bloody good. Thank you guys for watching today. As always, let me know the 6 things that you learned in the comments down below. Subscribe to GBFC if you're new around here and haven't already done so. Moving to a new place tomorrow. London derby victory. I'm a happy man. See you guys later. Come on, you Blues.